Hi team, welcome to my session on Coffee with Prab. And today we have a special guest, Mr. Soumen Mukherjee. I called him Somenda because I know him from last 10, more, I think approx 10 years.
10
Okay.
years,
Yeah,
yes.
10 years. And there's an interesting story behind that. I came for one session and he's one of the participant. And I was a bit nervous, to be frank, because he carried that experience in cryptography and product security, which basically gave me a great learning, as you know. And it is basically great honor for us to have him in this particular channel because his wisdom, his thoughts about the product security is just next level. And I'm sure the next 30-40 minutes, whatever the session it will be like a gold mine session. So this session will be useful for those aspirants who are into product security or making career in secure coding developments, GRC. And I'm sure it can be eye opener for you guys. And if you find this content useful, do reach out to us for more subscribes, links, and all that, so that we can notify you about the new updates. So Dada, good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
Yeah, very good evening, Prab. And indeed, it has been a long connection between us, I would say, and we have taken a lot of steps together in this journey of security. And I'd like to complete the story that you started. So yes, Prab was there and he was taking a CISSP session, and actually we were supposed to get another trainer that day, but for some reasons that person was not there. So he came in and he was like, he took half of the day, and we were like already in his awe. And then he said, so do you think I can continue the session forward? I can teach. And we were like, what kind of question is this? We are like, yes, why not? Means there's nothing as such which prevents you from taking those sessions forward. And I think the next 2 3 days were like, really, I still have his notes, and I still have his book with me, which has all the markings and everything. Though CISSP is definitely still in my target, but I would say, you know, the kind of work that I do, it has been a mix of technology, security, and a lot of hands-on learning. So far I've been able to take my journey forward. But yes, for people who are aspiring to make their mark, certifications, standards, a proper knowledge trainings, they are very helpful and very useful. So that is how I would like to start today's session. And no, there is no better person in this community than Prab, who can actually guide you. Trust me, I am in touch with almost thousands of security professionals in my LinkedIn profile, and I've seen people referring to Prab's sessions, videos from, I think, almost all the continents and many countries across the world. And it's not really, he's not a Indian phenomena, he's a global phenomena.
Thanks,
So I'm
Dada.
really, it's a privilege to be part of this talk with him, and I really hoping I'll take with me a lot of new knowledge and learnings at the end of this session.
Thank you so much, Dada, and I really mean it, and it motivated me to make more content like that.
Yeah.
But I'm sure after this session, people will be fan of you because I was myself was a fan of your write-ups and all that, what you do in architect and all that. So that's why I thought, let me try to have you in this session, and it is a great honor for us. So Dada, today, what is special? What we're going to discuss today?
Yes, so today we are going to talk about product security and,
Hmm.
uh, security by design concept in
Hmm.
in the world of product security. I
Hmm.
think uh, there are a lot of people who are actively engaged in software development. They are working in offshore development centers, or they
Hmm.
are working in global service delivery centers doing
Hmm.
product development for their clients. uh, but they understand security. Yes, they
Hmm.
understand the concepts and nuances of security, but what I feel is that when it comes to product development, that is where there's still a lot of work that needs to be done, because product development, it's a different ball game. It's like uh, just it's just like the red ball
Hmm.
cricket that you
Hmm.
have. Everything else is white ball, yes, but this is definitely a red ball cricket. It's a test match. It's a matter of endurance, skills, performance, patience, uh, and skills. Because product is, of course, once you develop a product, launch a product, it has a pretty long lifetime. I've seen products which are running in the industries for the last
Hmm.
20 years.
Hmm.
They are being supported, they are being maintained, they are getting security updates.
Hmm.
So it's not a 6 months, 1 year, 2 years journey. It's a pretty long journey, and that is where it becomes very important when we talk about product security. And one of the common things that I see typically with products is, when some organizations say that, okay, let's develop this as a product. Security becomes an afterthought. Security essentially, just when they are ready, they say, okay, let's put it in pen test and let's see what are the results. But that is, I think, the you know you get a very good pen test results. You get a lot of vulnerabilities, and your team says, okay, great, let's fix them. They fix them, but what you don't really realize that it is just a symptom fixing that you are doing. You are not addressing the root cause. uh, because again, 6 months down the line, 1 year down the line, you will end up in the same situation where your product will have another numerous set of vulnerabilities, and you will continue to do the pen test, but it is again just like identifying the symptoms and fixing them, not really addressing the root cause of the problem.
Hmm.
So what I'm going to talk about now is basically a model where we can which can basically address
Hmm.
a typical product development organization or a team which is developing a software for internal use or even for customers,
Hmm.
but it's essentially a product or a service which is going to be used by the people.
That's
So
great.
yeah, so typically, if I can,
Yeah, I'll give you the
uh,
host rights. Yeah.
yes, I'll just quickly share something. So, typically, when we talk about a, a product security organization, so I see like the three lines of defense for product security. So
Hmm.
we can call them, the first line being the operational security,
Hmm.
the second line being the security governance, and third line being the audit. Now,
Okay.
how are they important? What role they play in this entire game is very interesting part. Now, uh, typically, most of the organizations, when they start with product security, they generally establish uh, you know only the first line, where they have the the product security guys, the security engineers, the architects. But essentially, the full story gets complete when you have all the three layers in place. And when we talk about the operational security part, so it is more about uh, implementing the risk treatments, implementing the security processes and the implementations, and the other security controls which have to be part of your software development life cycle. So I think moving forward, we will go a little deep into the software development or the secure development life cycle as well. But the operational part is typically something which is part of the R&D teams itself, and that is where they actually are doing security in and out. you know so typical product security is not a one day thing. It's a journey, as I said before, and it has to be a part of your software development process itself. Now, the next question comes is that, okay, what are they supposed to do, how they are supposed to do it, what are the guidelines, what are the policies that they are supposed to follow. So that is where the security governance comes into play, the second part, or the second layer of defense, which can be a security office, it can be a product security office, it can be a security governance council, or it can be a group of security architects who are collaborating together to share the best practices within the organization. So typically you have security program, you have a product security program that essentially runs, which says that, okay, this is how we drive the product security, this is how we make sure the product security is an integral part of our software development process. So they outline the policies, guidelines, they help the teams in risk management, and they constantly work with the stakeholders for bringing out the awareness on product security. So typically what I've seen is, uh, for many organizations, awareness is all about basically getting people trained on basic cybersecurity hygiene. But that is good, that is always the first step. But when we are talking about R&D people, then there are specialized trainings that you have to undertake, like secure coding, secure code review, security scan, trainings about security tools, utilization of essentially bringing out the DevSecOps culture in the organization. So that is essentially part of your policies and guidelines, and that is where the awareness factor also comes in, where you basically make people more aware of the security practices of building your uh, software development more robust and more integrated with security controls. And of course, the last part, or the third layer of defense, is where the audit comes in. And of course, audit, as we all agree and we all know, is a very important part, and it's an independent and objective assessment, right? uh, and essentially you always need somebody with a fresh perspective, with a independent position, to come and look at you and do an assessment of how you are doing your stuff, how well you are doing, or what are the areas of improvements. That is essentially how it comes from the audit, on the audit side. And uh, yes, typically people say auditors will always find fault, but trust me, it is for your own betterment. The more fault they find, the better you will become tomorrow. You know, so I think that is one of the key takeaways. So if you look at these three lines of defense, I think they cover all the areas, all the aspects of product development. And now we can go a little deeper uh, in the product development thing.
Let's take a hypothetical scenario. I work for the product company.
Right.
Okay. So when I work for the product company, I'm planning to build one, suppose CRM solutions.
Yes.
Okay. So from that point of view, if you take the case study, like, okay, operation risk. So if you can spend 5 minutes on this area to, with this reference, role of operation security from this angle, security
Yes.
governance and audit. So that gives a new insight in this particular session. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. I think that's a great example.
Hmm.
Typically, when you look start developing a software, so you basically say that, okay, uh, I follow a secure development uh, process, and that is where the operational security comes into picture. Where you say that, okay, I would like to have a security champions program in
Hmm.
my organization. That
Hmm.
is the security governance part. They say that, okay, let's do a security champions program. Let's position some security engineers within the team, and let us also have a security architect
Hmm.
who has a high level overview of the entire end to end security.
Hmm.
uh, and then the operational side, the security engineers, basically they are part of your development team.
Hmm.
They work with your developers. They do help in the secure code review
Hmm.
of all the code commits that you are doing as part of your development process. So what you can do is, you basically also, typically in most of the organization they say that okay, they follow the 4I principle for
Hmm.
doing code commits.
Hmm.
So what we say that okay, you have one peer who is a
Hmm.
software developer,
Hmm.
you have one security engineer or a security architect who also looks up your code
Hmm.
as part of your code commit procedure, code review
Okay.
procedure. So there is a functional review as well as there is a review which is done
Hmm.
on the code from the security standpoint.
That's great.
And typically when we implement or go for a secure development life cycle,
Hmm.
we we can basically jump to the next slide also and address some of the things that when we look at the requirement and the design phase, we have the development, testing, review, a document deploy and operation, and the governance is something which goes all along. Um, a very If you drill down further in your case,
Hmm.
so you know for in the design phase you outline your cybersecurity plan.
Hmm.
And typically for the CRM example, when you outline your software design, you also design your cybersecurity plan as part of your design.
Hmm.
You do a design review sessions. So on the security side you do threat modeling sessions,
Hmm.
where basically you say okay, what are the threats, what are my endpoints, what is my attack surface, what are
Hmm.
the attack vectors,
Hmm.
what are the possible mitigations that I have, what are the things which are not mitigated.
Hmm.
Then basically you get into that security risk management. After you do the threat modeling,
Hmm.
you say that okay, these are the things which are mitigated, these are the things that needs to be mitigated. And uh, privacy, again, something
Hmm.
which is has to be incorporated as part of your design.
Hmm.
It is not an afterthought. So it is also something that I personally recommend that yeah, you should consider it as part of your design phase itself. So this is again something that is happening uh, in collaboration with your first line and your second line of defense. So both have to work together in this scheme of things.
That's great.
Now your software development has started, and as I mentioned that you have people who are writing code, they are raising PRs, it is getting reviewed, it is getting committed. So that is where your secure coding practices comes into play, where developers have to basically follow some kind of a guideline, or they can also use some automated tools. Because see, these days there are being such a dynamic thing, uh, it is really not possible always for people to be really up on speed with the secure coding practices and with the guidelines. So in order to mitigate that gap or mitigate that risk, we can use our tools
Hmm.
which help us to write secure code. And then peer reviews, of course, is again, as I mentioned, that you follow the 4I principle. You have one peer who is a developer, and you have one security engineer or a security architect doing your code reviews from
Hmm.
the security standpoint. And that is where things become very interesting, where you get different kind of comments. And most of the time I see people coming and they say, my peer is saying this code is fine, but the security architect is saying that I should not use this API, or I should not use it in this manner.
Hmm.
And that is where, then the security architect and has to use his convincing abilities in his skills to explain the situation, the best practice, and then, things move forward. Another dimension here, and the part of the development which is now becoming very popular, is the component analysis or software composition analysis, essentially. Because for people who work extensively in the US industry with federal customers,
Hmm.
SBOM is now a mandate.
Hmm. So
So
what is this
SBOM,
SEA all about? Like, there's a lot of buzzword around this SEA. I know you told about federal and all that.
yes,
So those who
right.
are, so I'm sure some folks who preparing for CISSP or CCSP, CSSLP, this topic is very buzzword. So, and I've seen a lot of people get the interview questions asked on this area. So, is it
Yes.
possible for you to spend 2 minutes on the SC area?
Yes, yes, sure, sure, sure. So basically, when you talk about software component analysis, so we should actually first try to understand what is bill of materials. So
Hmm.
people who are maybe who come from a hardware background or
Hmm.
who have worked in a production line, manufacturing line, for them it is not new. But
Hmm.
I will explain. So if you just take an example of, let's say, this glass that I'm wearing, so
Hmm.
it has a bill of material.
Hmm.
What its bill of material is all the list of subcomponents which
Hmm.
are used to assemble this end product.
Hmm.
So it will have, let's say, a frame, it will have a
Metal.
couple of screws, yes, it will have the glasses, it will have the nose pad. So essentially everything, when you put the list together, uh, you can say that, okay, glasses, you click on a button and it lists out the bill of material. It will have, okay, screws, frames, glasses, pads, color, polish, packaging material, everything. So that is like a typical hardware bill of material. Now the
Hmm.
same concept has been ported into the software industry, and that is what people say, oh, let's create the SBOM, or the software bill of material, for any software, any service. And that is basically, it then comes under the software component or composition analysis, where we say that, okay, what constitutes this software. Today, no software is uh, written from the scratch. There are a
Hmm.
lot of packages. Almost every software, 60 to 65% of it comprises frameworks, libraries, packages. Some are open source, some are licensed, some are developed by other teams within the organization. So it's a composition. It's something that you basically put all together and you create a software. And that is where the SBOM comes into picture. So SBOM basically, it's a representation of the composition of your software.
Hmm.
There are various formats which are popular, like one is SPDX, and then the other one is the Cyclone DX. Cyclone DX is something which is more popular because it's supported by OWASP, and US federal agencies, basically they accept SPDX as well as Cyclone DX format.
Okay.
So in a way, they are like JSON files, but
Hmm.
then there are a lot of different attributes which are defined within an SBOM. Now,
Okay.
interesting to know for people who are new to the concept of SBOM, that SBOM uh, not only has the as per the definition, not only it can basically tell you about the components or the constituents, it can also tell you about the vulnerabilities which
Hmm.
exist in those packages. So the format is very extensive, and it basically gives you a list of vulnerabilities also which are present in the packages. So the
Understood.
idea here with SBOM is to bring out more transparency in the software community,
Hmm.
and uh, this basically became more popular, or I would say the industry realized why SBOMs are needed when the Log4j vulnerability was
Who will basically forget that he
right.
spoiled the
So it
weekends and
it
New Year
spoiled
party?
New Year's, yes. It spoiled the New Year's of people, and that is when people realized we need something where we can say, and we can go and say, okay, where all Log4j has been used.
Hmm.
And this was $1 million question. And trust me, for a small company, even like where I work, it took us a few
Hmm.
days to basically outline and discover where all Log4j is used. And I can understand for larger organization, larger enterprises where there have been tons of services and software developed, it really was a nightmare.
Hmm.
So typically, software composition analysis, when you maintain a repository of all the SBOMs, you can do a search on a component and you will get to know where all this component and this particular version has been used. That is the real power of SBOM. Generation is the first step. The SBOM management is the next step
Hmm.
where it becomes really powerful.
That's
Right?
great.
So, you do all this as part of your development, and then very interesting, or the very important part, now as you develop your software, you also test. Now in Agile, we have this continuous loop of development and testing. And this is where now you see that you do all the security testing also as part of your software testing. And you will notice in my diagram that the left side is heavier than the right side, right?
True.
So what it means that you do more stuff in the beginning than you do
To save cost
in
and time.
right, right. So this is what essentially is the shift left paradigm, where you basically shift your processes, your security processes, to the earliest phase of your development, because that is where it is cheaper for you to address issues, to fix things, and rather than doing at the later stage.
But I want to
And
say one thing, Dada, here. This part of the content, what you covered, it was an eye
right,
opener for me, to be frank. And I haven't seen any video which talk about so detailed about the SDLC from this perspective. Thank you, Dada.
yes, no, this is very important. This is typically, you talk about, you know I don't see a lot of security architects in the industry today. I
Hmm.
think that is what a security architect actually should be doing, where
Hmm.
he should be working closely with the technology architects, with the product architects,
Hmm.
to define and enforce the security practices, the product security practices, as part of your secure development lifecycle.
Hmm.
And I think that is the day you achieve this in your organization, then you can be very sure that your product is secure by design. Of course, it's a journey. You do it iteratively multiple times every day,
Hmm.
but then as this can be a testament to your customers, that what they are taking and what they are running in their own premise, in their own installations, is not going to cause problems for them. So we have seen a lot of issues, you know, uh, with the packages, with the products,
Hmm.
uh, you know, uh, because of the vulnerabilities that they actually uh, cause their users to actually
Hmm.
suffer damage, right?
Hmm.
And this is what we would like to avoid by having a secure development life cycle. And this is what it is trying to address, right?
Great.
So you talk about security testing, you you have security requirement testing. Now, very interesting concept I would like to point out, that many people basically say that, okay, let's try to they say that, okay, we have a user login mechanism, we have password change feature, we have a password reset feature and all that. They basically consider it as part of the functionality, but I look at it differently. I say
But the non-functional.
these are security requirements, yes. So you need to have a clear distinction between your functional and the security requirements.
Because
And
security
this
is
is where,
considered as a non-functional requirement. Correct me if I'm wrong.
right, it is. But some people, they say, "Well, I have a functional test plan, I'm covering my change password, login test,
The process, yeah.
but that is just 5 test cases you are doing, right? But that is not covering your security of your password reset flow, right? It is not covering the security of your user login process, it is not covering your user login experience as well.
Hmm.
So that is just 5 test cases. So let us not talk about it. So let us talk about security requirement testing, right? So to me, you need, depending on how important or how critical the product is, you need to have a security test plan. That is what I say. Where is your security test plan? How are you going to test your security? What are the tools that you are going to use? And that is where the other steps comes in. What are you doing for your software static analysis? What are you doing for your dynamic application security testing?
Hmm.
What are you doing for your vulnerability testing? Is pen testing part of your scope or not? Are you doing fuzzing for your APIs? Because that is where, now, no, there is no system without APIs. So, you need to have fuzzing. You need to have that ability where you can really create that kind of a situation for APIs where they, basically lose their normal flow of operations and they start behaving in an erratic manner. And that is where you know that, okay, if my APIs are now out of control, is my product secure? Is it maintaining the three triads of security, which is confidentiality, integrity, and availability? Are my three pillars intact? So all you things you do, software application, static application securities testing is a domain in itself. We
Hmm.
can talk hours about AST, application security testing. There is a separate magic quadrant for AST which Gartner does. That is how important it is. And unfortunately, not many organizations, they still don't have AST in place.
Hmm.
DAST, again, there are numerous ways you can do DAST, but yes, very popular. Burp suit, people use it extensively. Good. I'm very happy. I feel very happy when people say, okay, we have done a testing through burp suit, but then, is it structured? Is there a process? Is this done with a method? Is it done with a objective in mind? You know, then
So do we
vulnerability
do,
test.
but does here what when you're talking about the security requirement and all that, do we maintain any kind of a documentation like what I heard about when you're talking about documenting requirement, we have one factor called security traceability matrix or requirement traceability matrix and all that. So do we maintain such kind of a document or what exactly we maintain? How we organizing the security requirement
Right,
testing?
right. Right. So typically, what I do, and what I also recommend people is, of course, uh, and let us be practical also. Like, everything cannot happen on day zero, right?
Hmm.
It takes some time, because the resources are limited. Even organizations, they will say that, oh, I cannot invest this much in security, I can only invest this much. So
Hmm.
we basically take a risk based approach, and we say that this is how this is what we will do first, and this is how we will scale up things. So typically what we can do is we can have a security maturity matrix,
Hmm.
where we keep a record of, when we keep a measurement of our security practices, that,
Hmm.
okay, are we doing SAST? Yes, no. Okay. If we are doing yes, are we doing it in all branches, or we are doing it in some branches, or we
Hmm.
are doing it in on the master branch?
Hmm.
So we can have a security maturity matrix. So if you look at the last step, which is governance, which talks about measure and improve. So that is basically, if you start measuring your maturity of your security practices, you will get metrics for your KPIs and also for improvements. That,
Hmm.
okay, today my level is this. Let's say, DAST, I am doing on an ad hoc basis,
Hmm.
but I would like to improve where it is done as part of every release,
Hmm.
or it is integrated with my CI/CD pipeline, where my build, once it is deployed, it also initiates a DAST scan from the tool that I use, and the report is generated and it is emailed to all the stakeholders.
Hmm.
So you basically have a security maturity matrix that you can use, and that can help you to measure where you stand with respect to your security practices, and it can give you those numbers
Hmm.
where you can use them further for improvement. Right. So that is how essentially now you proceed. You basically also document. You
Hmm.
do your security documentation typically. Uh, Now I see that a lot of products, they also come with their security hardening guide. That, okay, this is our basic configuration, but this is a hardening guide where you follow these steps and you basically turn off services which are not required, or you make it more robust, more resilient against external attacks. And you also have, many times you see security white papers,
Hmm.
where basically you talk about at a high level what are the security features or security functionalities that are available uh, in your product, how the
Hmm.
customers can configure them, what kind of compliance level your product is adhering to, you know. So a security white paper is a mix of marketing and technical and security stuff, which gives a pretty good foothold to also to your salespeople. So if you, as coming back to your example of CRM, so if you take, when the product is developed and when it goes to the market,
Hmm.
most of the IT guys will say, okay, do you have a security white paper for your product?
Hmm.
Can I have that? Can I get a first hand visibility on h- how secure is your product? That is, I think, the first thing any IT team will do when they get a product reference from somebody from the business. Oh, okay, this looks good, this is functional, can you look at the security part? And they will ask for the security white paper. Um, then cybersecurity report, typically, again, it is part of the pen testing process. So generally, pen testing is an expensive activity. And again, not many organizations maintain a pen testing team in house. There are various reasons for it. It is more to do with the independence and the credibility of the pen testing reports. So that is why it is always better to outsource your pen testing to a reputed third party organization.
Hmm.
So because then you have more, because they do it independently and they do it typically in a way where any external hacker will try to approach your system with very minimal information
Hmm.
about the internals of your system.
True.
So you have to have that cybersecurity report. um, Now, deployment again, uh, typically for SaaS solutions, this becomes very important that when you deploy your solution, your configurations are secure, right?
Hmm.
So typically you have to have a review done of your deployment strategy, your deployment model, your deployment configurations, and that is where your secure deployment becomes very important.
Okay.
Now, the interesting thing comes that deployment is done, product is up and running. Now people will say, security is over.
Security is over.
Sorry, it has just started now. Now you are in business, people are using it. Now you will attract hackers. Now you will attract attention. So till the time ChatGPT was being developed, nobody was really worried about what is the security and the privacy matters. The
Hmm.
moment it went online and people started using it, suddenly people realized, oh, what about security? What about the information disclosure? What about my privacy? What is happening? Now it is your operation starts. That is where you have to now become extra vigilant. You have to be ready for any security incidents, right? You have to
True.
be ready with a response plan. You have to be ready with a security incident response team. That what is supposed to be done. Let's say the system gets breached, what has to happen, what has to be the flow, who is going to be in charge, who is going to be in the driving seat.
Hmm.
So incident response is very important. It's some topic, I think you will also agree, Prab, that again we can talk weeks about incident response and we will still not be through thorough with that. Again, that is the kind of topic it is, right? There are
Agree.
various compliance things which are associated with incident response. You talk about the upcoming regulations in India. Security incident response is going to be very important even in the Indian context. So far, occasionally we keep hearing news that some data is available in dark webs from some bank, from some mobile operator. They, so far, the organizations have no legal bounding to come clean out of it. But with the regulations in place, it will become important. It will become a requirement for them to have an incident response plan in place.
Hmm.
So, and it is not something that happens in isolation. It has to be part of your software development process. It has to be part of your software release process. That whenever are you making the release, is your incident response team, is it aware that about the changes that are going to happen? Is it aware of the new endpoints that are going to be exposed? Is it aware of the new security controls or any changes, any breaking change that may happen? You know, like typically people say that, okay, we'll change the password policy from the next release. We will make the length go from 8 to 12 characters.
Hmm.
So people will be prompted when they log in that you need to change your password. But in an enterprise, when the user comes in, if he sees that window, typically for a senior person, he will call the IT. What is happening?
Hmm.
It is asking me to change the password. Have you changed anything? That would be the first question. So these are practical scenarios. We come across situations such like this, and these things are not really given that kind of thought or that kind of importance. And security updates and vulnerability management, I think, very important.
Hmm.
This is a cat and mouse game. Vulnerabilities will always come in your packages, in your open source libraries. You will have to up your game there. You have to make sure that you are you have a proactive plan to update the patches. Typically I see a lot of salespeople come to me and say that, okay, how many days in how many days we do the patch? Do we do it in 48 hours? Do we do it in 72 hours? So that is the kind of expectations that customers have, that the moment a vulnerability is declared in public, you patch it in 72 hours, you patch it in 48 hours.
And sometimes
uh,
it's a legal regulatory norms also, right?
yes, yes, in
Then in that
healthcare,
case, you can't do
if
that. Yeah.
in healthcare, yeah, you have to address situations in a matter of hours. So yes, so you have to be ready. This has to do a lot with your security development life cycle. It is not an isolated thing. It has to be done in collaboration with your R&D team, and with your entire development team has to be aware of all this. Now you take everything and now you say that, okay, I'm doing everything, but how can I improve? What is my improvement for the next year? What is my measurement? What is my performance for this year? And
It's
that is
here.
where the governance comes in. And that is where you say, okay, at the end of the day, I will measure how many incidents have I received, how many high or critical incidents have I received, how many medium incidents have I received, how much time have I taken to fix those issues, what has been my how many hot fixes have I given, how many security updates I have given. So all these kind of metrics, if you start collecting it over years, you will see that there is a trend, right? And if you are really focusing, you will send that there is it will not go down. It will not go down. It will always go up, but it will be a smooth curve, right? Because if it goes down, that means you are not investigating deeper. The level of disclosures have only gone up. If you look at the number of CVEs that have been released over years, so there is a exponential increase over the years. So it has a direct relation with the software that you have written out. So the same rate of increase should be there in the incidents in your on your side, because that means that you have been active, you have been detecting, you have been able to detect them, you have been able to address them, right? So you look at the all the things from the software development perspective, from that you do everything. And everything is related to the previous thing and to the next thing. They are all interrelated. You can't say that, oh, I will not do documentation, I will only do security testing and deployment. No, it cannot be like that. You cannot say that, okay, I will do secure deployment, but I will not focus on operations. I will So again, it cannot be like that. So it has to all everything has to be done in a manner where they are all being done in a sequential. fashion. So that is, I would say, a very brief overview of product security, product secure product development process, and how important it is for any organization to focus on product security, because it is not something that is only important at the time of being writing the software. It 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 will come back when it goes for sales. It will come back when being it is running in an operational environment. It will come back whenever you know it there is a vulnerability in the industry where people will start asking you questions, and that is how it is, right?
That is great actually, Sumenda. Sumenda, like you mentioned in the governance part, improve and measure. Okay, so do
Right.
you suggest any KPIs which is can be very good for the SDLC or product security?
Right. Right. So one thing that I mentioned was, measuring your product security maturity.
Hmm.
Basically, you say that, okay, again, that is from organization to organization. So you say that, okay, uh, threat modeling, am I doing it for every feature, or
Hmm.
am I doing it for for any major feature?
Hmm.
uh, Similarly, SAST, do I use SAST in the all code repos, or I do it only in the master branch, or I
Hmm.
do only it in the integration branch? DAST, is it something which is ad hoc? Is it something which is done in a for every release, or is it something that is automated?
Hmm.
Similarly, penetration testing, again, as I said, that it's an expensive thing. So I cannot say I will do penetration testing twice in a year. I cannot do that. I don't have that kind of money. So how do I optimize it? So again, we have to be mindful of our time, effort, and money. So
Hmm.
we say that, okay, is it something that I do it every 2 years, or is it something that I do only on customer request? So it again depends on the business, or and that is how you start measuring it. So if you have this data for, let's say, 2 years, 3 years, you will then in a position to analyze that. You say, okay, I see that there is, the DAST part is something where the teams are lacking. And okay, what is the reason for it? Why it is not being automated? People will come back to say, oh, we don't have that skills,
Hmm.
or the tool is not supporting automation.
Hmm.
That is also a possibility. So with that kind of feedback, the management can take improvement steps. That, okay, do we need to invest in a new tool where it is something uh, which has easy integrations available with the DevOps pipeline?
Hmm.
Or if the skill is an issue, do we really need to set up a separate DevSecOps team that
Hmm.
helps in the automation of all the things? So such kind of measurement will give you those areas of improvement,
I agree.
which you can then take up to the management and say, okay, because management will always ask for numbers, right?
Hmm.
They will ask for numbers. You cannot say that my security has improved. They will say, prove it,
Hmm.
right? They will ask for proof. And that is where you say the numbers. So, okay, look at my process maturity, security process maturity. There has been an improvement. Look at the security incident response. There has been no critical or no high that has been reported from the field,
Hmm.
over the last 2 years. 3 years back, there was one critical, one high, but now 2 years, no critical, no high. So that means there is an improvement. Look at my pen testing report. 2 years ago, these were the number of issues. Now, these are the number of issues. So
Hmm.
all these things will help you justify your improvement, your process, and it will basically be a vindication of the investment that the management has done in the product security.
That is
Right.
a very good point you have referred about, the maturity of the product. And I think we have a framework called SAM, OWASP, and all that we can use to
Yes,
measure the
over SAM.
maturity.
Exactly. We have that. I purposely did not really relate it it right now because I just
Mm.
wanted to keep it more general for people to understand. But yes,
Mm.
for people who want like to do more structured approach, OWASP SAM is definitely a good, very good starting point.
That's
You know.
great. So team, do let us know, like, shall we disturb again Sominda for the new topic? And
Yes.
if you have questions, you can share your questions in the comment box. Dada, I know I requested you for 30 minutes and it's now been 1 hour. It is one of the interesting topic, Dada, which I am always, amazed to see that. So, Dada, this is the last question I want to ask that,
Yes.
you talk about the processes, you talk about the requirement in each and every stage. Now, my question is like, do we maintain any kind of a, like in the company, like if this is basically watched by the person who's beginner and all that, and he is part of the job requirement or he is part of a job interview that you need to manage SDLC governance and all that. Do we maintain any kind of a chart? Do we maintain any kind of a document tracker where we make sure, every product need to go through to this checklist and all that?
Yes. So typically, just like you have a software release process,
Hmm.
a software development process, many organizations also have agile development process.
Hmm.
There should be a secure software development process
Hmm.
also,
Hmm.
basically, which typically should say about that. Okay, these are the security practices that you should follow as part of the design phase.
Hmm.
So you should have a plan. You should have threat modeling. You should have a risk management session. You should focus on the data privacy, and that is how basically a process. Typically, it can be driven as a process where we say that okay, from design, development, testing, documentation, deployment, operations, and governance, these is all that is required to be done, right? Now, as I said, that some people will say, oh, we cannot do it everything at first go, which is fine. You pick and prioritize what you do things to start with, and then you gradually use that measurement and improve one things. But
That's great.
there is a typically for organizations who are matured enough and who follow the process models and who have defined processes in
Hmm.
place, so there should be a secure software development process also as part of their process documentation.
Oh, that's great. So, Dada, before we basically wind up the
Yes.
today's session, do you have any last minute advice for the freshers who are looking into these videos and they want to make the journey in security, architect security? What is
Yes.
the most important thing they should review?
I think the most important thing for you when you learn or when you are doing coding is to also focus on the security aspects of the
Hmm.
code that you write,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
that is, I think, if you write a code where, let's say, you take an input and you are not doing input validation,
Hmm.
so basically you are doing a crime, in my opinion, right? You will basically cause numerous problems down the chain for years to come. So, but
Agree.
as a developer, as a freshers who are going into the industry and say, okay, I like to be a good developer. Fine,
Hmm.
you know code, you know technology. You should also know secure coding. You should
Hmm.
know how to write secure code, and you can refer to your OWASP secure coding guidelines. It's a pretty elaborate manual that covers all the aspects of secure coding, right from input validation to SQL injection prevention. Everything it covers, and that is a very good reference for freshers. Typically, if you really want to know about secure coding, to refer OWASP secure coding guidelines. I think that is the best Bible that I can suggest to anybody. You don't really need to refer to any other book or any other jargon. Just go and look up OWASP secure coding guidelines. I think that is the best thing that you can do,
That is
right?
that is great, Dada. And thanks for the great insight, Dada. And truly appreciate your knowledge that you have shared on this particular platform.
Right. So it's been a privilege talking to you, Prab. I think because the kind of things that you have a vast experience. We really do look at the small things, but you look at the entire world of things, and so uh, the kind of questions that you put up, they were very, very good and very insightful. That also, as I said earlier, that I will take away a lot of learning also from this session, and those
Yeah.
questions have been really truly in that sense been my learnings for the session, that okay, that typically, yes, like the KPIs thing, yes, the measurement, the process thing, how to document it more formal way. I think these were something that were even an eye opener even for me.
दादा,
So thank you, Prab,
ऐसा
for
नहीं
this.
है, ऐसा ऐसा नहीं दादा.
Thank you.
You that is a quality I like about, you don't take that the things on head. That is why you're well grounded, and that is how you carry your aura. Because don't go by his statement, guys. I know him. His the kind of a discussion he used to have in product. So it's really worth
No,
it,
no,
I'm
I
sure.
think it's a,
Hmm,
it's been a privilege actually. I've worked with pe- people who have been pioneers in the industry of security.
hmm,
You talk about your NEFT things, your
hmm,
IMPS money transfer that is happening. I've worked with people who have actually developed those technologies which are being used today in the industry to safeguard things. I've worked with people who are who have written the IPsec protocol, which is the underlying foundation of the SSL VPN, which is
true.
used for remote work. So I think I've been fortunate enough in that sense, and I just try to make sure that what I understand it conceptually. I really grasp the concept, and then I think it becomes very easy. And learning is a continuous journey. It's something that you do every day, every time, and there's no end to it. So I think that is the key to all this.
Thanks. Thank you so much, Dada. And I really, I really take I'm going to have a very good insight, and I'm planning to make one video, and I'm going to use this particular slide on that. I'm definitely give you credits because you deserve that, because I got some new insight about governance which I was having a limited visibility, because for me the requirement was the first and then design. But yeah, it makes sense. See, when I speak to the guy who work on the industry, the work on the ground, they don't work on theory.
Right.
You getting my point? So I come for the
Right.
session. I say the first stage is basically design, then we develop, and I gone after fifth day. So main in front of customer cannot say, okay, we'll have a design and then we have a development. Sorry, we have a requirement and then we design. Boss, okay, you're telling me on paper, please execute that. And this is where the
Right.
reality comes. So for
Exactly.
me, the new insight I got is the most important part is a design development, which is a shift right bottom approach, which is a very good point. And I'm sure I haven't seen any videos which talk about this level of SDLC from a product security perspective. And I'm sure this video going to rock. And team, trust me, do let me know. Shall I disturb him again? Because see, people say no, on the gun point, they say. So for me, the gun
No,
point is
no,
this
no.
live camera.
Yes.
Okay,
So
so this is live
always
camera.
welcome, Prab. Always welcome. It's a privilege actually. It's a I really appreciate this kind of interactions, because this is where you have the opportunity to give back to the community as well.
That is what we are
Right.
here. So, and Dada, can we have one session on cryptography? As you worked on cryptography solutions and all that. Do let me know, team, in the comment box.
Sure.
Shall we have a next session on
Sure.
cryptography
Yeah,
with
we
Soumen?
will have to prepare. It will be a little more technical, less talks and more
Hmm.
things on the running side. But yes, we can definitely do that also.
Done, Dada. So, Dada, this is all from our side, team. And if you're new to the channel, do subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon to make sure you should not miss the future videos on a similar topic. Thank you so much. Good day. Bye.